My name is Lissette Handal, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Red Umbrella. And I was born in Bolivia, but I'm half Lebanese and half Palestinian. I started the Red Umbrella in 2010 mainly to support women who had lost a spouse and single moms. And I decided this past year to take it international. And I guess I started the Red Umbrella because I've always been a humanitarian at heart. And I wanted to help women and wanted to help girls become empowered, and especially girls in the Middle East. I can tell you when I was 7 years old, I remember wanting to be Secretary General of the United Nations. And I lived in Bolivia, which is a poor country. It was poorer at the time. And of course, we were not considered the poor people. So we had poor people coming up to our home all the time begging. And I used to bring in kids that came to the house to beg. And I used to bring them in the house and give them my clothes and give them baths. And sometimes I managed to hide a couple in the room until my mom found them and made them go away. So I've always had that bug in me. I've always wanted to do that. We filed our 501c3, like I said, 4 years ago, and it came out pretty quick. It was right after my divorce, and I felt at the time, women like me did not have the support out there. And so I started for that reason. And I worked it really hard for about 2 years, but I didn't really have the right team at the time, and I burned out, to be honest. You know, you can burn out in nonprofit very easily because it's very hard to raise money. But last year, I got the right team, and we rebranded and refocused the vision, and I decided to follow my passion, and that's how I decided to take it international, which is what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to work in Africa, in the Middle East, and so it just didn't make sense for me to just work in the U.S. I needed to take that passion and put it where I really wanted it to go, which is with Middle Eastern women and girls. So now what we did last year, we wrote a couple of grants which we received, and that we were able to launch a program in Syrian refugee camps in Lebanon, mostly in southern and eastern Lebanon. And so we traveled in July, and we did a needs assessment where we did a needs assessment on the status of women and girls in those camps. We visited over 10 camps and were able to teach a class. It was almost like a pilot, like a focus group, where we were able to really get information on what those women needed, what they wanted, what they had, and what they didn't have. And we came back and put a curriculum together. And this past December, I traveled back to Lebanon, and through the help of our local partners, we were able to launch classes in 3 camps for 2 girls' classes and 1 women's class. So the girls are as young as 11 years old. You know, what really resonated with me in those camps is that women there are the same as women here. And I think their needs and their desires and their wishes are pretty much the same needs, desires, and wishes that we have here in the U.S. There, they don't have the opportunity, and they are just as much victims of the political instability as the rest of the world is. And I just think if we could look at those women the same way we look at women here, and hear them and listen to them, and I think we will be able to help them. I think they want education, they want opportunity, they want safety, and there's just not enough of that over there. I honestly think it was through the partnerships, because we work with very moderate Muslim organizations in the South. And so when we developed the curriculum, first of all, they were the people that took us into the camps. So immediately when they saw us with their local leaders, they knew that it was okay to talk to us. I think the fact that I'm Middle Eastern, even though I sound Hispanic, helps a lot, because I look Middle Eastern. I speak some Arabic, so they're able to relate to me. And I think mainly because we got the curriculum approved by the Muslim leaders, and so it wasn't anything that is too drastic. Our curriculum mainly includes things like self-esteem, learn to be individuals. Those women don't have a sense of individuality. They don't see themselves as separate from their community, separate from their religion and their families. And so I think teaching them to know that they exist separate from everything else is the core of everything that we teach. And at the same time, to teach them to live in community, because believe it or not, they live in refugee camps and they're surrounded with other women in the same circumstances, but they're very isolated. They don't know how to ask for help. They don't know how to leverage on resources. They really don't know how to help each other. And so we're teaching them all of that. You know, it's kind of soon. We just launched this in December, so we've only really held like 4 classes. We're in the process of evaluating, but I see that they're very well attended. A lot of women and girls, mostly girls. You know, I'm finding that it's much easier to work with young girls than it is with women. I think the women there are so concerned with their survival, with feeding their children. Many of them have lost their husbands, so they're fighting in the war, and they're just worried about getting food and shelter and medicine. And so women are a little bit harder it's harder to see the results on women than it is to see on girls. But girls are just eager, and they come to class and they're just so excited, and they bring friends. So we'll have a class, and sometimes somebody will bring 3 girls that were not in the original class. So, I think that's a good sign that it's working. It has transformed me in so many ways. I can't even begin to tell you. It's put my entire life in perspective, and the life that we live here in the United States. I seldom complain anymore. I was never really a complainer, but we all get to whine here and there, and I just don't do that. And literally, if I'm somewhere and I'm out and I see people that are just complaining for no reason, I will stop and I'll smile and I'll say, you know what? I work in refugee camps, and we really do have a great life here. So that shouldn't bother you, and it doesn't bother me. And people they're like amazed. And I've never had a negative reaction from somebody like that gets mad at me for kind of telling them not to whine. But, I'm just a happy-go-lucky, and I'm just so blessed and grateful for everything we have here in this country. Well, my poor daughters, they worry every time I travel. I have 3 daughters, 13, 8, and 6. And they're just almost as empowered as me, especially the youngest one. And they're just very conscious of what's going on, and they want to get involved, especially the youngest one. She's actually made a video of herself calling for help for Syrian refugee kids, and she literally just grabbed my phone and start talking into the camera. And so, they get scared when I travel, but I think they know that, nothing's going to stop me. I think they know it's my mission and my passion, and they're learning to find their own passions through that. So that's been important. Yeah, I have to say, the way I'm a single mom, as I said, I have 3 daughters, and it's hard. It's hard to travel to the Syrian border. It's scary. But, at the end of the day, if you want to raise those daughters and really start empowering your own kids at home, you have to follow your passion. Otherwise, everybody around you that's learning from you won't follow their passion, and that'll be a disaster. So you have to put support systems in place. I have people that help me. I've enlisted almost an army to help me, people that I can call, babysitters, backup babysitters. And the most important thing, I think, is to make sure the kids feel safe, because they're safe. You're going to take the steps that you need to take to keep them safe. But I think the biggest challenge is to let them know that it's okay, and that that this is important to mom, and that they're going to be safe and it's going to be okay. So I think that's the biggest thing. My dad has inspired me the most growing up. I was closer to him than I was to anybody in my family. He passed away 14 years ago, and it's been tough ever since, but my dad always believed in me. When I was 7 years old, and I remember I wanted to be in Africa working with kids, but I wanted to be a millionaire, and he would look at me and be like, go for it. And everybody else would say, oh, no, you're crazy. You can't do both. And so he's definitely inspired me. He's a very calm person. He's very different from me. So our personalities are opposite, but just his steady support and unconditional love has been amazing. Well, I've been fortunate not ever having had a major traumatic event in my life, like illness or death. The death of my father was one, but it happens. Death is a natural process, so I can't say that was a traumatic event. But maybe my divorce was hard. But believe it or not, I think the marriage was more traumatic than the divorce itself. I don't think the divorce was traumatic, because by the time I got to the divorce, I was complete and I was done and ready to move on. But I would say I was in a pretty tough marriage, loveless marriage. It was emotionally abusive, and I think that it was pretty traumatizing. But it has helped me I realized that without that, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. I don't think I could inspire other women and girls if I hadn't gone through that, because it's just shaped me into who I am. The power of women means so many different things at so many different levels. For me, it can mean the power of a stay-at-home mom in running her household, and the power of a CEO of a top 500, Fortune 500 company. I think it's the power to be who we are as women embracing our feminine side, not try to become like men or be like men, or we just have to be strong in who we are. You know, we're made different, and I think so many women confuse that, and they just are in this race to just equality and everything. And yes, we all want to be equal, but I think along the way sometimes we forget that we are powerful in our own right and just exactly the way we are. We don't need to change one thing. I want to say something about the Middle East, because a lot of times I get pushback on working in that part of the world. So I would like to say that the Middle East is a very tough region to work in, religious-wise and politically speaking. But the women there, I've had somebody come up to me and say, you're empowering the unempowerable. And I just want to say that that is not true. There's a lot that can be done in that region. Women and girls are very open, and believe it or not, the right men are very open to change. Men have really royally messed up that part of the world. And so I think it's time for us to really develop women leaders. And part of what we hope to do with the Red Umbrella is to build peace schools for girls throughout the Middle East. So 10, 15 years from now, we'll be able to, you know, see the change that we're creating by these women making a change. So my vision and my goal, I may not see the results for 10 or 20 years from now, but I'm definitely willing to wait and do whatever it takes now.